in which we have the change of Qibla, the parting from the Jews, a new Ummah being born, the warning that you will not be able to preserve your freedom and independence unless you are prepared to fight for it, regardless of Security Council of the UN. And so fighting is now made obligatory on you. And if you do not fight, you'll be slaves. Like our Indonesian sisters, who now are slaves in Singapore, serving those who are hostile to Islam and doing that for slave wages. I told him that in Indonesia. I said, this is shameful, and this is disgraceful, and this is haram, and all the men of this region will have to answer to Allah for that on the last day. For every Indonesian maid who committed suicide, and so many of them, serving those who are hostile to Islam, which is haram, and doing so for slave wages. I asked, when last did you see a Singaporean woman working in Indonesia as a maid? They started to laugh. I said, when last did you see an American woman working in Indonesia as a maid? Now they're really laughing. Did Allah ordain that your women must be slaves for the whole region? Will a Malaysian woman work for the wages that an Indonesian works for as a maid? If she would not, then these are slave wages. And slave wages means oppression. If you do not fight, you will become slaves. But fighting requires power. And power is of two dimensions. It's not unidimensional. There is an external dimension to power. George Bush has a lot of it. Cruise missiles and so on. But that's not the only dimension to power. There is an internal dimension to power. There's external power and there's internal power. The fast of Ramadan has come down to deliver power. That's the context in which it came down. But Ramadan comes and Ramadan goes. And those who have to teach the subject never teach it this way. Because the usul al-tafsir is inadequate. That is why. The fast of Ramadan came to deliver internal power. So when you fight, you will fight with internal power. And you'll always defeat those who are fighting because they want a green card. Yeah. 1 in every 10 who's killed in Iraq is an immigrant from Guatemala or Honduras or Mexico or someplace fighting for a green card. Fighting for the US dollar. Mercenaries. That's what they have out there. Mercenaries. Yes, they may have all the weapons in the world. But if you have internal power, you're more than a match for them. How does the fast of Ramadan deliver internal power? What do you do when you fast? The language is unique. Allah says 2 words, only 2 words. He says As-sawmu li. First person. He uses the first person singular. Intimate language. Intimate language. He says fasting is for me. When you fast for me. Intimate language. And so when we fast for Him. There is this woman, American woman in Manhattan, who took the Shahada, became a Muslim, just before Ramadan. And then Ramadan came and now she has to fast for the first time in her life. But she has this messenger who brings her lunch for her every day. I don't know whether it was nasi padang or nasi goreng, whatever it was. but she has this messenger who brings her lunch for her every day. And she forgot to tell him that I'm fasting now. So on the first day, she has to take the morning meal. Who wants to eat at 4 o'clock in the morning? So she's not accustomed, so she took maybe a cup of coffee. Now she's no breakfast, huh? So 9 o'clock comes, 10 o'clock comes, 11 o'clock comes, and she's feeling the pangs of hunger. First time, eh? And then guess what happens? Knock, knock, knock. The messenger came with the food. Tom yum. Smelling nice. And I'm hungry. The door is closed. The windows are closed. Nobody looking. All she has to do is eat. And the hunger will be satisfied. But the American woman said, no, I'm fasting for you. I'm fasting for you. Fasting connected her with a God she couldn't see. That's an amazing accomplishment for someone born in Western civilization who does not believe in that which he cannot see. There is no reality beyond the material reality. That's materialism. A rejection of a spiritual interpretation of the universe. But fasting connected her with a God she couldn't see. I'm fasting for you. You're looking at me. How can I eat? The fast of Ramadan is knocking on the door of our hearts. If you could fast for me from dawn until sunset, day after day after day after day, you do it for me. You were a customs officer and used to be taking underneath the table. How did you buy that Audi? But now when the fast of Ramadan came, no, I can't do that. I can't take a bribe. You used to be giving bribes. But when the fast of Ramadan came, you said, no, I must stop. No. You used to be going to all kind of women other than your wife to satisfy your carnal desires. But when the fast of Ramadan came, you said, no. How can I do such a thing when I'm fasting? And so the fast of Ramadan did something more than simply connect you with a God that you could not see. The fast of Ramadan cleansed you out, washed you out, made you clean. Yesterday you were a man who could be bought and sold for just ringgits. That's all you needed, ringgits, to be bought and sold. And the fast of Ramadan has come and made of you a man who cannot be bought with even a mountain of gold. That's an amazing accomplishment. Huh? You building a fighting machine here. George Bush wouldn't be able to stand up to this. The fast of Ramadan is knocking on the door of your heart. If you can fast for me, from morning until night, day after day after day after day, if you can fast for me, why can't you live for me? Why does Allah want us to live with Him, live for Him? Why does He want us to proclaim? Qul, say it! Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin. They call this fundamentalism. Say, verily, my prayer and my service of sacrifice And my very living and my very dying, everything is for you. They call that fundamentalism. Secular societies can't have that kind of people around who proclaim this verse of the Quran. The fast of Ramadan is meant to take a people and so transform them and mobilize them that they now become a people who live for Allah. Yesterday, you remember the fellow, not in Manhattan this time, he's in Brooklyn. He said, everything I'll give up for you, oh God. But not my green card, that I can't give up. No. Now, whether it be your green card or the job that you have in the bank, of course, whatever it may be, I'm prepared to give up anything or everything for your sake. Now you live for Allah. But how does living for Allah translate into power on the battlefield? Simple. It is only those who live for Allah, only they will die for Allah. They call that, of course, terrorism. CNN. Only those who live for Allah, only they would die for Allah. The rest are like sawdust. The wind comes, they're blown away like straw. But those who live for Allah, they'll die for Allah. That's power. When a man is prepared to die for his cause, he's prepared to die for his cause, he can defeat an enemy much more powerful than him. Fidel Castro and a small band of men in the Sierra Maestra mountains of Cuba were fighting for a cause because Cuba had been raped time and again by the United States. The rape has to stop one day. And Fidel Castro and his men came forward and fought for a cause and succeeded. The only part of Cuba still under occupation is a place called Guantanamo. Mao Zedong. They fight for a cause. They're prepared to die for their cause. They succeed. Imam Khomeini. He didn't have any tanks. He didn't have any guns. The Shah had the biggest armed force in the Middle East, the best equipped military force in the Middle East. He had abundance of petrodollars to finance his machinery. He had the support of the two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. He was selling oil to Israel and he was getting support from Israel for his savak, his internal machinery for repression. And the savak, the Mossad trained the savak. The Shah had everything you could want to survive. But when the people came out and they were prepared to die for their cause, and many died, what happened to the Shah and his armed force? This is the message. That if you're prepared to die for your cause, you cannot be destroyed. They can send you to Guantanamo, but you will not be destroyed. Your cause will survive. And so the fast of Ramadan came to deliver power, internal power. And that internal power will serve you well tomorrow on the battlefield of Badr. What we've done tonight is to locate the context in which the fast of Ramadan came down and to demonstrate its relevance to fighting and to the preservation of independence. What we've done tonight is to show that the first and the most important of the results of fasting, namely internal power. But if you have